Eventually, the official count was released. Morales won in the first round, 47.08 to 36.51. This is, again, the official, legal, certified count. 47.08 for Morales minus the 36.51, which is 10.5 percentage points for Morales over the opposition guy, which is named Mesa. So, yeah, that is pretty much how that worked. And, again, if you've been watching the polls before the election, 5 out of the 6 of them predicted that same result. Literally that same result, which is, again, it's weird to have a fraud that, again, completely matches up with the polls, which is kind of funny. Unfortunately, the damage was done because the media misunderstood the difference between the two counts, and the opposition started terrorizing Morales supporters in the streets, including, again, the small-town mayor that we talked about, who was beat up. Her hair was forcibly cut. Morales agreed to abide by an OAS audit of the results, but curiously, Mesa didn't. He just didn't. I don't know why. That's pretty much what we know about at this time. And we kind of have an idea of what is going on. It's a really good, simple explanation of what is going on there. So, and if you want to look more into this and see the graphs and see the charts, especially if you're kind of a math nerd, you could go to the website cepr.net, and they'll have something up there that pretty much shows the kind of break and the kind of the results that were reported each time along the way from the quick count, and then the little pause, and then you can take a look at the trend line when the report starts going again from 83 to 95, that jump that we talked about, and you can see the trend line pretty much changes barely at all. Sure, it goes up a little bit for Morales, obviously, but that's, as we explained, because there is more rural voters that take longer time to count. So as the election goes on, I think he would have gained a little bit in the polls. So that seems to be kind of the reality of the situation. And it's very, very disturbing to see kind of what happened to this guy after such a, I mean, in terms of frauds, like, this is just not very convincing. Again, I just want to issue a reminder here. Morales won an election he was supposed to be stealing, but I mean, I don't think he stole it, in my opinion. I just don't think there's a lot of evidence to that fact. But again, it's a digression here. But if you believe their narrative here, he was supposed to be stealing this election that he won by 10 plus points, easy money, an election that he was supposed to be trying to steal. And then he goes, yeah, let's do it all over again. Sure. Like, if he rigged the election, he would not want to do it all over again under closer supervision. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that doesn't seem how, like, you rig an election. That seems like a guy who's pretty confident that, A, he won the election, and B, he could win it again. It does not sound like a dangerous, dictatorial authoritarian with dictatorial tendencies who's going to come and kill us all. Like, no. Like, I just don't think that's the reality here. He's just actually confident that he won, and he's literally willing to do it again. He's literally willing to do it again. And, yeah, so then later in the day, after he pledges to do this, I think at 12 or so hours after he pledges to do this, I would say, roughly 12 to 18 hours, Morales, then he resigns, and by all accounts, not willingly. This revote pledge for this opposition, this right-wing militant opposition, it was not enough for them because his cohorts, as we mentioned, his friends, his associates, and his family members were being targeted incredibly violently. Morales' house was ransacked. Like, what he did this, like, I believe his sister's house was burnt down. Like, he's gone into hiding, I'm pretty sure, at this point. As of now, at least he has been granted asylum in Mexico, which is also run by a left-wing president at the moment, AMLO. So that is a good thing, at least, to see. But we do not know at this point where he is, because he is, I think, undisputedly in real danger here, because I think it's very clear. If you look at some of the videos that have been coming out of Bolivia at this time, people are out to get him. Now I want to play for you a little bit of a discussion by a colleague of the man who wrote that Twitter thread, the Center for Economic Policy Research, yeah. he was talking on the BBC about some of this, and I think he gives a really good rundown of the situation as well.
How serious is this situation now? People are using words like coup. Are we really there yet?
Well, I think it is serious. I think the opposition, or the leadership at least, is trying to overthrow the government. And, near majority, 47% of the people voted for the president, which was over 10 points more than the next runner-up. And so he won.
But those results, sorry to interrupt straight away, but those results are exactly what's disputed. Do you have faith in those results?
Yes. Well, if you notice, you can read, dozens, hundreds of articles since October 20th on the web and on this election, and not one presents even one shred of evidence that the election was in doubt, stolen, or anything else. And so this is very bad. I think it was very bad decision on the part of the Organization of American States. They put one sentence into their press release after the election without any evidence whatsoever, implying that there was something wrong with the result. And so that was picked up by most of the media, but you can look at any website for any major news organization in the world, and no one has yet presented any evidence, and that's because there isn't any. I mean, you don't even need a statistical analysis. We did one, which you can see at cepr.net, but you can just look at the numbers from the election, and there's nothing that indicates anything was wrong.
Okay, well, given that, why are so many people out on the streets now then, do you think?
Well, you had a lot of people in 2009 on the streets tried to overthrow the government then. And so you do have an opposition that wants to get rid of this government, and they've used violence in the past. And so it's not that surprising. But I think the media has played a huge role by simply repeating over and over again this allegation, which is really nothing at this point more than an unfounded conspiracy theory, because there's nothing to indicate that there's something wrong with the result. And the Organization of American States is there now conducting an audit, and the opposition refuses even to accept that because they want to get rid of the government.
What about this other line that's been reported then about police and the police's role here?
Yeah, there's been some police who have supported the opposition. You have to remember, too, though, the OAS decision was very important, and they're under enormous pressure from the Trump administration, and Senator Rubio have publicly stated their intentions to also get rid of this government. And so that's...
So hang on, are you saying that there are forces in Washington that would like a change of government? And
there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt.
But how involved are they in supporting you? Are you saying they're behind protests on the streets there? What's the relationship?
No, I think that the most obvious relationship is with the OAS. The United States supplies 60% of the funding of the OAS. Rubio has openly pressured the OAS before, and so has the Trump administration. And so they are under pressure, and there are people inside the OAS who know this. And they're under pressure to say this. They didn't put it in their second press release, and they still haven't produced one shred of evidence that there was something wrong with the vote count or the result. So that people know. I mean, we've talked to people in there. People know that this is wrong, and hopefully they'll be honest about the audit.
All right, so that's Mark Weisbrot, who is the founder of the Center for Economic Policy Research there, kind of explaining his side of the story. And I think from what we've seen, it's a story that we've been able to corroborate. There is no evidence that really shows that the people who ran this have any problem or have any corruption issues or any case to be made for corruption here. I mean, I think the thing where the left here is the most at fault is their kind of attempts to push past. Like, granted, the fact is, I do see it is incredibly suspect. I mean, as an American, we are very much ingrained in the idea of a two-term president. But again, there has been liberties taken by people who are who work for they petitioned the Supreme Court. They went to the court for a change on that, and I mean, I think you would really make the case is if they wanted Morales for a third term, if they really were really mad about Morales for going ahead and running for an extra term, I think they wouldn't have elected him again. That would have been a pretty telltale sign that they were not so much of a fan of Morales. So again, that's I do see the kind of skepticism and anger that people have at Morales for trying to push past the established rules when it comes to term limits. But again, it was approved by the Supreme Court, which is the same as the United States. In Bolivia, it's also the highest court in the land. Like, it's called Supreme for a reason. And also, I think the fact remains that they could have very easily just voted him out. They could have said no. And I think, again, as Mark Weisbrot, Center for Economic Policy Research, said, it's very, very clear that there has been no evidence presented beyond the fact that one sentence from the Organization of American States, that there has been any major problem with these results. And we've already looked at the sentence that they've said. We talked about that earlier in the show and explained the realities of the situation. If you want to look at the actual picture graphs of that, you can go to cepr.net to check that out. And again, I feel like even so, I think as Americans here, like, do we really want to be meddling in these people's election? Like, it should be very disturbing to all of us, because this is a sovereign country. This is if we're back in this, if we're really trying to change the way things are here, like, who does that make us when we come in next time and start complaining about Russia? Like, we just motivated a massive overthrow of a sovereign government, and a government that's been working, by all accounts, even the most biased accounts against this guy, even the most right-wing neocon accounts of what's been happening in Bolivia say that, he's been doing an all right job. Like, that is the reality of the situation. I think that's something that we need to think of when we look at our leaders, and even the people who exist in our state today, some may call them deep in our state, that aren't elected, and see what role they have. And I think it's really time for Americans to become more aware about this, because this stuff isn't just 1980s. This stuff isn't Reagan. It's happening now. And I think we need to really start to realize that. All right, that's Red Alert for this week. We'll see you next week. It's been fun.